Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, as you all well know. And I'm joined today once again by young Aidan McDonald, Aidan C. McDonald on the Twitter handle, as you can see there. Good morning, Aidan.
Morning, Tony. How are you?
Not so bad. I'm all right. I'm well. International week tends to go a bit quiet. It's never really quiet in the world of Celtic, is it? But we'll get to that in a minute. I'll enjoy your attention to the ticker tape running along the bottom. You know what I'm going to say, but we'll say it every day. Subscribe to the Celtic Way. Support top quality journalism covering the club you love. It's £1 for 2 months of full access. You get access to everything on the website and also the daily pods. You can join us by hitting that button. Join us at www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Now, Aidan, we thought after one defeat in 38 games, we thought it'd be a good time to reminisce about that 38 game run. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask the viewers as well. 38 game run, ladies and gentlemen. What's your own personal highlights from that run? Throw your comments into the comment section. Get your memories from that in there, and me and Aidan will bat them off and stroke them off and talk about them as they come in. Okay, Aidan, I'll throw it over to you first because you're the youngest of the two of us here. What's been your own personal highlight of that 38 game unbeaten run? You can have 2 or 3 if you want.
There's definitely plenty, and my number one is probably going to be the most basic answer that probably 50% of the viewers are going to put in. It's the 3-0 victory against Rangers in February.
Yep.
We hadn't beaten them, and I think it was almost over like 2 years at that stage. I know there was obviously a COVID period in there when there was no games, but it was a massive game as well. Also, we'd just beaten Dundee United 1-0. Which might be another game that a lot of people talk about when Abada scored late on.
Yep.
And if we won that game, we went top of the league for the first time. The first time that season, and I think the first time since the first game of the previous season. So it was a massive game. Atmosphere was brilliant. The fact it was a midweek added an extra wee edge to it. That first half performance was frightening. How good it was. That must be one and just kind of the exact way he wants everybody to play. And I know not everybody was available that day. Obviously, Kyogo was injured. Dyson Maeda had just came back from international duty. Came off the bench as well, remember. But yeah, at that night, Abada was brilliant. Matt O'Reilly always stood up to the plate, and Hatate was exceptional. So that's probably my favourite game, Tony, I would say.
Yes, indeed, the 3-0 game. A couple of people putting that. Charlie McGarvey's the Greenway Ways, the 2nd of February, Parkhead Rocking, 3-0 against Rangers. It sort of followed a similar pattern in the 4-0 game, didn't it? And I think a lot of people's personal highlight was Jota's picture of him. That still where he's pointing skyward, he's raising his fist skywards, and after his goal, Charlie McGarvey saying the guy's clever. I think he's talking about you, Aidan. And that was, I think a lot of people have got that now as kind of their screensaver, stuff like that, Aidan, but you touched upon it there as well. Abada's goal against Dundee United, that was a crucial game because Rangers had dropped points to Ross County, I believe, earlier in the day. Celtic had gone down to 10 men, and Abada scored in injury time, and the place was just utter bedlam that day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was utter bedlam, and there was quite a sense of panic about it. Even the fact that Ange had put on a Ben Doak for that game as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying we're chasing a goal here, you're putting a 16-year-old on. You could feel there was a lot of tension in the air, and then the calmness right at the end. The brilliant cross from Jota, by the way, for that was an exceptional. Probably one of his best assists of the whole season. The way Abada, all right, maybe the Dundee United defender can do a wee bit better, but the way Abada takes it down, then the finish right under pressure, and as you said, Tony, it was utter bedlam in the stadium.
Now, Patrick McLaughlin brings up a good one. He said Boyce missing the penalty at Tynecastle. That was the night of Rio Hatate's rocket shot. And yeah, that was a huge moment. And then I knew we were going to get some comments on this one. Ralston's 97th winner at Ross County. Now, you talk about bedlam, many pitch invasions, just sheer relief at the result at that time. David Ferguson coming in, Cal Mack shouting obscenities at Barisic the night of the 3-0 game was his personal highlight. Very good, David, indeed. Yeah, I mean, The great thing about this is not everybody will have the same moment. Some people will, but you can talk about them as they come up. But Boyce missing that penalty that night was a huge turning point because Celtic held on for a 2-1 win when Hearts were getting in the ascendancy at that moment, Aidan, if you remember that game.
Yeah, that was a massive moment I'd actually forgot about. That even whole kind of, through a wee bit week period after we came back after that other COVID break that was brought in, beating Hibs 2-0. I don't know if I'm getting the exact order right here, but beating Hibs 2-0, then, beating Dundee United, beating Hearts, and then beating Rangers. And obviously Rangers dropped some points as well. So that was probably one of the most significant periods of the whole season, really, that kind of 2.5 weeks.
Yes, indeed. Now, one of my highlights was Giakoumakis' hat-trick against Dundee and his goal to win it, the diving header, Ralston's cross, kind of in the dying embers of that game, and his celebration afterward, where he just whipped off his top and he just gave it one of them, the old Cantona, kind of, how good am I? But, you just, in the Rolodex of your mind, you just flick back, don't you, to various big moments. And that was a big moment because Dundee came to Celtic Park and did what a lot of teams couldn't do, scored twice, and put Celtic under some pressure that day.
Yeah, that was another massive game as well. And then obviously Giakoumakis had the famous comments after it, basically saying we were going to win the league, which I think people were either really nervous after that or yes.
That's
so,
right. That was
yeah, that was another massive game, Tony. And the fact Rangers had dropped points as well, day before or the day of that as well, was another kind of big step. And actually, another game I wanted to mention that I forgot about was the 3-2 victory up at Pittodrie. Aberdeen got it back to 2-0, and then Jota, who'd already scored in the game, scored late on with a brilliant finish, straight from kick-off, if I remember rightly. That was a massive game as well. As much as if you didn't win that game, you weren't going to be like, go back to second, but you'd have been right under pressure, and it would have undone some of the work that you recently had beating Rangers and stuff. So, yeah, that was.
I'll also talk about the other win at Pittodrie when Jota scored late on, the one that kind of cemented Ange in the eyes of the supporters when people were saying he was under pressure to get a result. But that day there was a kind of groundswell of, a kind of loving with Ange and the fans and the players, and it all kind of came together that day. They dredged it out from nowhere, and that was a pivotal goal in that run as well. I thought the late one from Jota.
Yeah, that was another really, really big goal. And obviously we go 1-0 up with Kyogo, and then we lose a goal that's not that great. I think Montgomery and Joe Hart kind of just got a bit mixed up when the ball got played into the corner. And yeah, Jota scores late on, and you're really thinking, I can't remember how many points we would have been behind if we didn't win that day, but it was a few anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you didn't win that game or if you lost it, you were starting to think, is Ange going to be under a real bit of pressure here? Is he going to lose a bit of the buy-in that he's had from fans? Because, that'd have been quite a lot of his first 7 or 8 league games that he hadn't won. But then Jota, really good goal actually. Logic plays the ball in. Montgomery, who was playing quite a lot at that stage of the season, had played a couple of European games and stuff, plays the ball across, and then it's a brilliant finish from Jota the way he just kind of slides into it. It was a massive goal.
Yeah, the 2-1 game, I think Kevin Ferrier's talking about the Ibrox game, Tom Logic, Cameron Carter Vickers, a significant win that was that day back in April. Brian Roberts also brings up the celebration day, the title celebration day. He said the celebration day was the most emotional one he's ever known. It's funny because my father said that to me as well. He said that it was one of the more joyful flag days or trophy presentation days, the day they beat Motherwell. And another moment for me in that game was Tony Ralston's pass to Kyogo. If you remember the chip, that was fantastic, and I really liked that moment in the season as well. But there was also another moment for me was Matt O'Reilly's goal against St Johnstone after Celtic played keep ball for about 40 odd passes, and he just ate, Bill Shankly said, stick the ball in the net and we'll discuss your options later, and he rattled it into the top corner, didn't he? That was a wonderful football goal. I think everybody played a part in that, and I think somebody actually put that to remember Angie's "We Never Stop" training.
I remember seeing that at the time.
Somebody put a meme of that up on social media, and he was giving it, love it, and all that, and it was just brilliant the way they did it, but it fitted in brilliantly. We never stop, we keep going. We recycle it. We're never not on the move. It was brilliant the way they did that. I thought that goal kind of typified that whole philosophy.
I think it did. That was basically the perfect goal. A lot of people would imagine that was probably their favourite goal of the season, and rightfully so. It had that air of the golden bell he'd scored against St Johnstone back in the Invincible season with all the passes. Although O'Reilly's was probably a better finish at the end of it, to be fair. Not that wasn't a good finish, but yeah, that was brilliant, and that was probably one of the most complete performances across the whole season. And I remember I was doing a live blog for the website that day, and I felt like, particularly in the second half, I just finished updating one goal, and then there was another goal. I was like, this is mental, but no, it was what a performance that was that day. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to think that. Yeah, David Ferguson, what a joy to have so many highlights in one season. We've not covered them all. We're 11 minutes in, and we're still talking about lots of moments. Someone said the 9-0 destruction of Dundee United that they liked from earlier on this season. In retro, Celtic, Ibrox Park in April, yeah, totally dominated the 2-1 win when Cameron Carter-Vickers hit the net. It was incredible. Yeah, and you kind of come and still gutted about losing the way Celtic did. St Mirren showed guilelessness and energy and no sign of fear. Hunted us for 90 minutes, stopped us playing, made us look slow and tired. We need a plan B for this. Yep, well, today was all about, won't dwell on the St Mirren game. Well, today was all about the 38 game unbeaten run and income tax and VAT 2012. So Tony, sort your hair, do it, man. Yeah, I'm going on holiday next week, so I'm going to go to the hairdressers and get it sorted. So in the meantime, you're just going to have to put up with me and the wardrobe and young Aidan talking us through our Celtic highlights of last season, or the 38 game unbeaten run, which is the equivalent of a full domestic season. Any other spring to mind, Aidan?
In terms of other big moments, I've been thinking of the Dundee game as well before you mentioned that, Tony.
Yeah.
I think another big moment would probably be, and it is technically part of the unbeaten run, but it's probably not the most positive for a lot of people. So obviously when Giakoumakis missed that penalty against Livingston in the last minute, there was a lot of negativity around the club at that stage. Obviously we'll include that because it's technically part of the unbeaten run because it was a draw. And there was a lot of negativity around the club at that time. And there's a lot of pressure on Giakoumakis as well. And then also he dropped out of the team after that. So I'm just comparing that to when he kind of first came back into the team. I think it was a Scottish Cup game away to Alloa and then Hearts and the way he kicked on. I think that kind of individual moment ended up not being one of my favourites, but one of the ones I thought the most about, because the way he was able to come back from that, because you'll remember at the time, Tony, better than me probably.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pressure on Giakoumakis at that stage. And the fact he was able to turn it around like that was exceptional for me.
I think people's perception was that it was a kind of lackadaisical penalty, wasn't it?
And that was probably fair enough.
It lacked conviction for the last kick of the ball type stuff. They wanted them to batter it, but yeah, you're right. I think the way he came back was admirable, and also he did tell everybody, as you said, that Dundee game, he signposted that Celtic were going to win the league and let the blue touch paper, didn't he? On that kind of debate, but he was proven right at the end of the season, and he contributed a lot towards it. And he contributed. I mean, there was an incredible statistic where Giakoumakis, I think, scored 2 goals with 2 touches. The rest were all 1-touch finishes, wasn't it?
I think so. I think
2 and 13, I think he scored, and it's incredible. And he showed some wonderful athleticism with overhead kicks. Still doing it. Did it down at Rugby Park earlier this season, and did it against Motherwell in the trophy day. And Kyogo's 2 goals in League Cup final, another highlight. Yeah, I guess that was. I was talking about the 38 game unbeaten run in the league, but certainly that helped Celtic gain momentum. They proved that they could be winners, and which kind of sparked the kind of run that they ended up going on in the league. Aidan?
Yeah, and that magic from Kyogo made you realise, wow, like, not that anybody was criticising Kyogo at that stage, but like, you know what, the hype around this guy is valid. He was the only player on that pitch who could have maybe scored those 2 goals. At that time anyway, before we brought in maybe a few other guys like O'Reilly, Haggerty, etc. Both goals were excellent. The touch for the first one, and the way he kind of played that across the line, because if you remember, we couldn't fully see because of the smoke bombs that the Hibs fans were setting off. And the way he scored that was exceptional. And then the second goal was probably one of the best goals I've ever seen. I don't mean to be dramatic, but genuinely, it was probably one of the best goals I've seen.
I also wanted to highlight as well. A highlight for me during the unbeaten run was the manager.
Yeah, of course.
The way he dealt with everything, and the way he handled some questions from certain parts of the media, but just the way he held himself, never get carried away, was never too up, was never too down. But just some of his answers, and kind of you sat there and you shook your head and you were just like, wow, this guy's our manager. You were proud that he was a manager. It's a long time since you'd felt like, this is a manager who, I know I use this phrase a lot, that gets it, but he was a stranger to the Celtic supporters just barely a year ago. He came in and he just got that feel for the club. It got under his skin, and he just seemed to say all the right things and do all the right things, and he got that buy-in from the board, from the players, from the supporters, and it's just been a kind of wonderful ride ever since. But just the way he held himself and the way he spoke. Now, I always say to people, the Celtic manager's job, to the likes of yourself and myself, it's the highest football management job on planet football. It's not, of course, but it is to us, and it should be held by a certain person who carries himself, I always say in a kind of statesman-like way, and Ange Postecoglou certainly does that. He has that gravitas. He has that kind of, he's earned that respect now from everybody. And just, I think his conduct is becoming of a man holding that high office. He gets it, and he always has since the moment he walked in. And you just look at him and you're quite proud to have him there as your manager. Well, regardless of what happened before, when Celtic blew the 10, it kind of led to this. And I don't think any Celtic supporter now would swap what they have now.
No, definitely not. And the way Ange handled himself in the media that you mentioned there, particularly in those early weeks when he was right under pressure, without being too negative, you're not to the Champions League, and then, was it 3 out of the first 6 we lost? The way, he stayed calm, that will have helped the players. The fact that he was not going off one, and he's going off on one, sorry.
Yeah.
Press conferences and that, etc. The fact he held calm, and that he did, and because of the way he'd kind of been conducting himself up till then, he got the buy-in from the fans to get through that quite tough period. And before we'd won at Aberdeen, I don't think we'd won in the road in the league since something like February or something like that.
Yeah.
So, fans were cracking up at that stage, and rightfully so. But we got that win with Jota, and yeah, the manager, we all love the manager, Tony. I don't know what else I can say about Ange, to be honest, without repeating myself.
But even on Sunday, he sort of held his hand up. Didn't outwardly come out and say it, but just sort of said that maybe the changes, he kind of owned that. We spoke about that yesterday. Maybe he did make too many changes, but again, people were saying he didn't. Nobody was moaning at Ross County after they won 4-1 when he made 9 changes, but he was sort of hinting at, maybe look at myself on that one and see what we can all learn, myself included. So he wasn't shirking away from that or shying away from that, Aidan.
No, he always takes responsibility for anything that happens on the pitch, really. And the fact that he did, obviously, like you say, he didn't outwardly come and say, I made too many, but he did kind of say it might have been too many changes or something along those lines. So he did acknowledge that. And the fact that we're not being kind of gaslit by the manager as supporters, you feel good about that as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're watching it going, I think there might have been too many changes. Then the manager goes, but the manager around about way basically says, that probably was the case after the match, and it makes you feel like, firstly, it makes you feel like, maybe I slightly do know what I'm talking about. But secondly, you're like, the manager can see what's happening here, and you trust him to, as we said yesterday, over international great work in that and make it right against Motherwell in a couple of weeks.
Andrew Gillier comes in, loving the positive vibes. The chat since the weekend was bringing me down. The retro Celtic. Tony, how slow do you think this 2-week international break will feel like? Feels like 2 weeks already. Oh, struggling. That's why me and Aidan had a chat when we left yesterday and said we'll talk about the 38-game unbeaten run today. Keep it positive, keep it upbeat, because we were interested in your own thoughts on that as well. Andrew Gillier saying that Ange loves his job. He does indeed. More comments coming in, but keep your highlights coming in. Tony, many of our players are off on away during the break. Well, there's 3 Japanese contingent, isn't there? Already, Cameron Carter-Vickers has pulled out the USA national squad. I think Matt O'Reilly's up for the Danish under-21s, isn't he? You've got
three
at Scotland, 4 at Scotland, Ralston, Taylor, McGregor, Turnbull. I'm trying to think who else.
Juranovic is meant to be away with the Croatian squad, but I know obviously Ange was saying he has played so many games, so I've not seen an update about whether or not, but he was selected, I believe.
Indeed, yeah. I'm trying to think who else. No one else springs to mind.
Nah, because Stephen Welsh, etc., he's too old for the under-21s now, so...
Yeah.
Because he's usually been picked for them. Somebody obviously like Adam Montgomery, he's on loan, so even if he has been picked already for the under-21s, he's not going to be registered as a Celtic player.
And
Aaron Moy picked for Australia?
Don't know. Liam Scales obviously on loan has been called up to Ireland.
Called up to Irish squad,
yeah. Georges Giacomakis, was he in the Greece squad? Kevin Ferrier's asking.
I would imagine so. I'd been writing a couple of wee things about international duty yesterday, but it was the Japanese players and then also Carter Nichols pulling out. I would imagine Aaron Moy, because he was getting called up when he wasn't playing. You know, when he was in a bit of limbo after leaving the team from China, so I'd imagine he would have been called up.
If you get the chance, can you ask Ange about Haggerty? Certainly will. Next time, sit in front of him, we'll ask him, see what he says about Haggerty, because it's a strange one, Haggerty, that he's not featured, but hey, we'll see how it goes.
He's not in the Champions League squad either.
No, exactly. Yeah, but that was...
I don't know if that's down to the homegrown thing. Obviously, you need to have so many players.
It was down to the whole homegrown thing. Yeah, indeed. But no, it's... I can't get too down, Aidan, about 1 defeat in 38. I just can't. I refuse to allow myself that, which is why we sort of decided to be more positive and upbeat today. And I agree with the Retro Celtic. It's going to be a long 2 weeks, isn't it? The players, the manager, supporters are kicking their heels until club football comes back. And you have to just grin and bear it, don't you?
Aye, all the players and the fans will be chomping at the bit, to be honest, to get back after that result. So, no, it is going to be a long 2 weeks, Tony. But, oh well, after that, I believe when we come back, we've got 14 games till the World Cup break.
14 games, yes.
And then 4 Champions League games. Is that right? If I miscounted that. No, I haven't got 4 Champions League games, so...
Yeah. I think Ange said 14 games in a period of like 34, 35 days.
Yeah, right? So we're going to have plenty of football then before that World Cup break. So
time to go, plenty of time to go on another run. Aidan, would you say that?
Oh yeah, I'd love a wee 14-game winning run, Tony. That'd be exceptional. I don't quite know about beating Real Madrid at the Bernabeu right enough, but we'll see.
Well, you never know what state of play Real Madrid will be in. They'll probably have skated the group by that point. Hopefully, they'll have skated the group by that point. And they take maximum points from the double header against Shakhtar, and that throws it all into the melting pot again. So, and Celtic can take maximum points from their double header against RB Leipzig, but we'll deal with them in the fullness of time. But no, I think that the one thing you take from the 38-game unbeaten run is just I've said this before, the unbridled joy that you got from it. Some of the stuff that they played, some of the results, some of the games that we've been ticking off there and mentioning. Retro Celtic coming in, there's no reason why Celtic shouldn't go on a run. Yeah, there is no reason why. I think Joe Hart was speaking, and he said there was no excuses, and it wasn't about attitude, because the guys are always humble when they win and humble when they lose. So it's a feeling I've not been used to, Aidan, losing.
Yeah, it is a feeling I've not been used to, but characters like Joe Hart, big experienced guys like that, Callum McGregor, they'll be telling the guys after the game, it wasn't good enough, but we just need to stay calm. And Joe Hart highlighted that after it when he was saying, we don't get too high when we lose, we don't get too high when we win, we don't get too low when we lose. And I think that is a good motto to go by. You just kind of keep on an even keel. And I'm sure we'll bounce back, Tony. I'm sure we'll bounce back.
Yeah, without a doubt, the Motherwell game can't come quick enough, I think, for most people, can't it? Yeah, it's like they're ticking off the days. Guys are the TTC says, remember the Stremond on the field, no team are insurmountable. Yeah, I totally agree with that. We spoke about that yesterday, that you have to earn the right to win football matches, and it just didn't happen for for Celtic on Sunday against St Mirren, but it's happened plenty of times previously in those 38 games, and you could always look back fondly on that, Aidan, and I think the Celtic supporters will, because I wrote at one point on the Celtic Way during the season that it was probably one of the most sweeter Celtic title victories that they've enjoyed in a long while, because it was probably unexpected, because it was a team supposedly in transition, but they transitioned pretty quickly.
Yeah, they transitioned probably quicker than anyone could be hoping. And I do agree, it was probably one of the, just from personal experience, it was probably one of the more sweeter that I've experienced. The fact that, what had happened the year before, and the fact that it was relatively close as well, whatever it was, 5 points or that. So, it did go on for a while. I would say it was definitely one of the sweeter title victories.
Raymond Hadden comes in and says it's a learning curve this season in Europe and in domestic games. Yeah, I would say more so in Europe it's the learning curve for Celtic. I think domestically they've got a handle and a grip on most teams, as they've already proven and shown. Retro Celtic, Tony, I'm so pleased that the Motherwell game's at home. Why, do you not think they could go to Fir Park and win, Retro Celtic? I think they could. I think they're well capable. As we said yesterday, tick it off as a blip, Aidan. If it becomes any more than that, then you start getting concerned, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. If you were to start building up, 3 games without a win or something like that, then you would be concerned.
Worried.
But I think after one, it's, you comment on it and you say it wasn't good enough, but we go again, as I would say.
We never stop. That's
Yeah.
the motto. Stopped temporarily on Sunday, didn't they? It was halted, but yeah, these things happen. And I did like Joe Hart's answer, actually. He was asked, the run was always going to come to an end. And Joe Hart said, nothing needs to come to an end, which I thought was a kind of sign of his mentality, wasn't it? They were like, right, okay, nothing's came to an end. They've lost a football match. It's like they go again type thing. And I thought that was quite interesting, his terminology there, Aidan.
Yeah, and he's got the winner's mentality. He's done it at the highest level in Manchester City. He's played in Champions League semi-finals, whatever it is, 70 odd caps for England. So he's got that mentality of, we're still 2 points clear. It's not like Rangers have got games in hand to us or that at the moment. We've played the same amount of games, and we've got a significant goal difference as well. I was looking at last night, Tony.
Yes.
I hadn't realised it was in Celtic's, is it plus 22 and Rangers are plus 8 or something like that. So, that's probably worth a point or two as well. So I'm not surprised Joe Hart's got that mentality just because of how successful he's been in his career. And I've got a feeling most of the team probably are thinking that way.
Yeah, I think that was the most surprising thing of all on Sunday, that they failed to score, failed to create any real opportunities. I think even playing as badly as they did, I think the Celtic supporters kind of thought the opportunities will come. It's just a matter of time, they'll create something, but they didn't, which is why they succumbed to defeat.
Yeah, we didn't really. The only one, as we spoke about in the pod yesterday, I could really even remember was Giakoumakis had a header, but I can't even say it was a gilt-edged opportunity that he should be scoring. And I think that was probably the most surprising thing, because you look at even some of the defeats last season in Europe against Leverkusen and that at home, plenty of chances, Betis away, plenty of chances, Leverkusen away, plenty of chances. And then even when we lost 1-0 to Rangers at Ibrox and stuff, plenty of chances. So that was probably, because I don't know if I mentioned that yesterday, that was probably my biggest surprise from the game, was how little Celtic actually created.
Yeah, and I think that's what disappointed the fans, because they felt that something was always in the post, but as time ebbed away they realised it's not. The great comeback wasn't coming. So there you go. Well, that's been quite a positive pod today, Aidan, I think. Really enjoyed that, kind of reminiscing of the fantastic run of 38 game unbeaten run. Retro Celtic says, nah, Tony, just want to get back into paradise. Fair enough. It's a wonderful place to be at the minute if you're a Celtic supporter. The way the team's playing. Raymond Hadden says, fantastic run of 38 unbeaten games, would take it again. I'm sure every Celtic supporter would take as a rule of thumb one defeat in a calendar year, Aidan. If only it was that simple, eh?
Oh, we could do that every year going forward. That'd be brilliant, Tony. I wouldn't mind a wee bit of that.
You would take that, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But as I say, that's been very enjoyable. Guys, thanks for your comments. Thanks for your memories of the season. As I say, we thought we would try and lift the mood a little because everybody was a wee bit down after Sunday. We'll keep lifting it. We'll try and lift it. We never stop. We go again. All of that kind of vibe. Thank you, young Aidan, for your comments as well today. Enjoyed it. First class, as always. And guys, you know what I'm going to say. Ticker tape along the bottom. You know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. £1 for 2 months of full access. You see myself and young Aidan on the pod, and Sean, who's away on holiday in case you're wondering where he is. Just join us. Hit that button. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And me and Aidan are away to have a chat about what we're going to speak about tomorrow. Because we've got days to follow this. As the Retro Celtic says, 2 weeks to follow this. There you go. We'll worry about that later. Take care, guys. Have a lovely day. Thank you, Aidan. Cheers for that. And I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Tony. Cheers.